call this meeting of the Davenport School Board to order. Director Postian, would you read the board priorities?
Priorities. The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students. Provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment in our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff. Direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impacts of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Dr. Klein's-Room, would you read the mission and vision statements, please?
Mission statement: enhance each student's abilities by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. Vision statement: education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you. I don't think we'll have any student board reports today, because there are no students here. As far as board reports, anyone have any board reports? Director Hayes?
A couple of weeks ago, I attended the Embrace Race luncheon that was held at the Regalski Center. A lot of students from the area high schools and middle schools were there, and they had mentors at the table talking to them about various situations that was going on. And all the boys were required to wear ties. If they didn't have ties, there were little gift bags with ties in them that they could have, and there were also bags that they were given when they left. So it's just kind of teaching the young boys how to be young men.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Director Gosa?
I had a couple. I was at the, I don't know what it's called, but the winter concert down at the Adler. I just want to say that the students did an amazing job, and I would love to know how many students were actually up on that stage all at once. But they did a fantastic job, and thank you to all the staff, everybody that was able to help set that up, the people at the Adler, everybody who had to clean up and break down afterwards. Again, it was a phenomenal performance. I do my annual daddy-daughter date night going to that. I take my daughters to that stuff, so it was a great experience. And then one other thing, I was at Wood Intermediate the other day. I had to drop something off for my daughter, and as I'm coming out, going to get in my car, I see a security guard going out, and a kid had left the building and was walking out of the building. And Sherry Simpson Schultz had came out, got right down, sat on the ground with the student, talked to him, got right down on his level and everything. And coincidentally, it happened to be one of my Little League kids, so I knew the kid too. And she was able to talk to him and reach him, and then able to get him back in the building and back to class and back on track. So I just wanted to acknowledge her for doing an awesome job with that.
Any other board reports? Board committees. We have some new board members and we have some board committees to fill. The agenda committee is composed automatically of the president and vice president and superintendent. We have a vacancy on policy, and I understand you are interested in policy. That is correct?
I am.
Okay. Legislative advocacy, Dan, you are going to be serve as chair of that committee?
Yes.
Okay. Finance liaison. You were, yes. Mr. Postian will be on finance liaison. And Linda, poverty? You're not that you are, but it was just, okay. No change there. Okay. We are looking for perhaps setting up a rotation of board members to attend the School Improvement Committee. They've requested to have some board members attend. I'll probably get with you individually and see we got about 5 dates that we can fill out and volunteer to show up, okay?
Do you have
Well, everybody got out. Talk to people.
Okay.
Talk later. Yeah. Communications. Director Hayes, would you read the upcoming calendar events?
I'll be happy to if it'll open up for me. On December 10th, Tuesday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., the Career Night Expo will be held at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds, Iowa Building, 2815 Locust Street in Davenport. December 17th, the time is yet to be determined for a School Budget Review Committee meeting in Des Moines. December 23rd to 31st will be the winter break. There will be no school. January 1st, New Year's Day, no school. January 2nd and 3rd, winter break, no school. January 6th, school resumes. And upcoming board meetings are contingent upon approval upon the revised board meeting schedule this evening.
Thank you. We'll now move to open forum. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at the board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The board will not act on any issues presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Opens Meeting Law prohibits action on any item that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak during open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. We have a number of open forum requests tonight. One or two people have asked for additional time earlier, so I've given them 3 minutes. Most everybody else then will have 2 minutes. The following, I'll read through once, and then when you forget, I'll read through again. We'll have John Keeley, Dan Flaherty, Carrie Johansen, Carl Drapo, Julia McMechen, Linda Smithson, Ashlee Sullivan, Meg Napper, John Keith, Maggie Reeves, thank you. Ralph Johansen, that name is familiar. And then we'll finish. John Keeley then will come up again. He has an announcement he wants to make concerning a film.
John Keeley. I'm the president of the Davenport Education Association. My address is 3240 Lorton Avenue, Davenport. As you are all well aware, many teachers, staff members, and administrators in our district have been forced to deal with several trying issues that can impede students' learning. One of the factors that continues to help our district deal with such problems, such as huge class sizes and the lack of teachers available to hire to fill open positions, is the trust in professionalism and communication that has been established over the decades through the practice of collective bargaining in good faith and the honoring of a master contract. Why has this trust occurred? Because the practice of a master contract has worked. This fact is proven by the dedication of thousands of teachers from all different backgrounds who have and are currently employed in the Davenport Community School District. To fulfill these educators' lifelong ambition to freely teach students without the fear of having their rights denied or ignored, without the fear of having their dignity insulted or deprived, to teach professionally without the fear of institutional insult or repercussion, by both sides working together to respect, improve, and abide by the contract's language and purpose. More now than ever, our community needs a sense of direction, and the practice of both sides agreeing to a master contract provides teachers the security and guarantee that they will be treated as respected professionals. For the school board to abandon this noted and worthy application would sever the bonds of trust and belief in our district. Therefore, I speak on not just the behalf of 900 DEA members, but for the community as a whole, that it is of the greatest importance that this elected body adopt a new policy and continue to support the practice of collective bargaining in good faith and ensure that a master contract is agreed between the DEA and the Davenport School Board. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Flaherty. I'm a lifelong resident of Davenport, a social studies teacher at Central High School, and a proud member of the Davenport Education Association. Pardon me. I'm here tonight to thank the school board for treating me and all other teachers with dignity and respect by bargaining master contracts with employee groups for the last 46 years. Our school board and teachers were the first in the state of Iowa to bargain a master contract in 1973, 1 year before it was required by Iowa law. Tonight, I respectfully request you continue this progressive tradition by adopting a policy which requires the administration to negotiate a binding master contract with teachers and other employee groups. For 46 years, we've had positive relations between the board, administration, teachers, and other employee groups because of the good faith bargaining we engaged in under Iowa Code Chapter 20. Binding master contracts require all parties to negotiate with respect in the spirit of compromise. The process gives teachers and other employees a seat at the table rather than merely providing input into an employee handbook. While the Iowa legislature gutted Chapter 20 in 2017, the law still allows the opportunity to negotiate on many different important topics like hours, vacations, holidays, leaves of absence, in-service training, grievance procedure, seniority rights, in addition to salary, and put all of these agreements into a binding contract. Clear rules, mutually agreed to, acknowledge the hard work performed daily by your faculty and staff. The law also allows for the board to adopt a policy which requires joint labor management committees to discuss topics like evaluation, transfers, staff reduction, and insurance covered by employee handbooks and work rules. By requiring our administration to work with teachers and other employee groups on these important topics, you will truly demonstrate that we are all in this together. During these difficult times, the DEA has worked closely with the administration to handle school closings, teacher layoffs, involuntary transfers in a respectful way. This will continue when you adopt a policy which requires good faith bargaining and discussion over these many significant and emotional topics. We hereby propose this policy tonight. I've distributed a copy to each board member. Clyde, I sent one by your computer. And we really hope you consider a policy which mandates collective bargaining and discussion on things we can't bargain. I'd like to ask all the teachers in the audience to stand. I'm going to close with a line from great American labor leaders. United we bargain, divided we beg. Please don't make us beg. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Johansen. I'm a resident of Davenport, a teacher at Central High School, and the chairperson for the Labor Management and Contract Negotiations Committees for the Davenport Education Association. I wanted to speak to you tonight about the importance of working together to create a mutually agreed upon master contract for teachers. First, it is my understanding that there's been some misinformation surrounding this topic, and I want to clear it up right away. As Dan said, under the 2017 collective bargaining law, we can have a master contract. We do not have to switch to a handbook. If you have heard otherwise, it is misinformation. In fact, since 2017, 15 of the other 17 UEN districts in the state have worked with their local unions to create updated master contracts under the new criteria. So to be clear, we can and should maintain a master contract here in Davenport as well. Second, over the past few years on the negotiations team, we have established a strong, positive working relationship with the district. We always put our shared interest first, and that is the success of the students of Davenport. Using the contract, we have worked through a lot of tough situations, including closing a school, releasing 72 teachers, a budget crisis, and an ongoing audit. In all of these instances, and many more, the master contract has been the cornerstone that has held everything together. A handbook would not provide the same basis to work off of, and in fact, would do harm to the positive relationships we have established now. Third, we must acknowledge the reality that Davenport Schools has some challenges ahead. A master contract would provide the current teachers with the confidence and reassurance that they are in a district that values their hard work. A master contract would also entice new teachers to come here instead of other districts that only have a handbook. We already have teacher shortages today in Davenport. In addition, having a master contract shows the mutual respect that district leaders have for the teachers working directly with the students of Davenport. It would communicate that whatever lies ahead, we will work together to solve it. A handbook, on the other hand, communicates that teacher voice is insignificant and not valued in facing these challenges. Ultimately, it comes to this. When you care about someone and you care about the work they do, you show them with action. A master contract would show teachers the district cares about us, values us, and wants to work with us moving forward. It is in the spirit of this that the DEA respectfully suggests that the DCSD School Board Policy Committee would consider our language for a good faith bargaining law that would ensure that we have this mutual respect and a contract in hand at the end of this year. Thank you.
Carl?
Good evening. Carl Drapeau. I currently reside in Bluegrass, Iowa. Grew up and born and raised in Davenport. A graduate of Davenport Community School Districts. I have a 13-year-old that's in the school districts myself. I want to talk about, obviously, collective bargaining. I'm the business representative for the International Union Operating Engineers in the area. We cover the Iowa and Illinois side. Collective bargaining is important all around. It sets a base standard to make sure people are treated fairly on both sides, not just the members themselves, but also helps protect the management side by making sure there's compliances and standards in place. I want to talk about courting. I'm asking the superintendent and obviously staff as well to, when it comes to protective bargaining, not to refuse to negotiate with the employees' bargaining representatives over the non-mandatory but permissible subject matters, some of them including obviously their hours, their vacation time, their holiday, leave of absence, job classifications, health and safety, in-service training, their grievance procedures to make sure that they have a fair voice in the workplace, make sure they're not obviously mistreated, their seniority, and other items that can be mutually agreed upon. I mean, we can go on with the huge list of things. These things are very important to everybody. Like I said, it sets standards. I've got a 13-year-old. I'm actually one of the teachers, the vocational welding teacher in the room tonight, Mr. Zen. I remember when he came on as a teacher, I was his first or second class. Phenomenal teacher. He does great things for this community. If you guys don't know and don't follow West High School's vocational Facebook page, he puts in a lot of time and effort before and after school to help train these kids and make sure they're ready for the workforce. He and many other teachers that do this and put their heart and soul into this career deserve a fair pay for fair day's work. So please do the right thing and have a collective bargaining agreement in place, not just a handbook. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Julia McMechen, and I reside at 3706 Pine Ridge Court in Moline. While I might live in Moline, Illinois, I do represent 20,000 union members from Dubuque, Iowa, all the way down to Keokuk, Iowa, with a few counties on the Illinois side. In that span of jurisdiction, I have witnessed school districts who have placed a value on their employees and have granted a contract, and I have seen school districts that have done the opposite and have went to an employee handbook. What I am here today and asking you is to consider a policy management litigation that the Des Moines public schools have also implemented, and it's really just saying that I value the employees that work at the school district, whether that means they're a teacher, a paraeducator, janitorial staff, support staff, you name it. Those employees do make a difference on every child, regardless of if they're the first ones that they see at the beginning of the day, whether they're in their introductory class or whether they're at the afternoon school program. What we're really just trying to do is, I mean, you've heard teachers here say the of the valuable work that they've done, and you as a school board have a direct say in whether or not you value those employees or do not. And I am here just to say that other school districts have followed this suit, and I am asking that you guys do the same. Thank you so much for your time.
Gonna make you call my name again,
wow.
but I forgot. My name is Linda Smithson. I live at 1550 Tanglefoot Lane in Bettendorf, Iowa. I'm a teacher at SMART, a teacher librarian at SMART. I've been at SMART for 22 years. I'm here tonight to urge you to carefully consider the consequences of changing from a teacher contract to a teacher handbook. While it might seem that a handbook would be easier for the district, I respectfully disagree. See, last year the district was forced to reduce the teaching positions by over 70. This was well publicized in the media, and all of these teachers at some point over the summer were called and asked to return. Over half of them declined because they had already found jobs in other districts. In addition to those teachers, the district lost many veteran teachers to other districts who could offer a sense of stability, causing a teacher shortage, particularly in the middle schools. When teachers were given pink slips last year, only one was given at SMART. However, SMART lost 19 teachers last year. Of those, 12 went to other districts. SMART and Williams started the school year short by 6 and 8 teachers respectively. Sudlow and Wood had unfilled openings as well. So this has resulted in a tumultuous school year thus far. Students have been affected directly by having unfilled positions. They have had little sense of consistency of instruction, with many different teachers stepping in to take over for a few days at a time. This has directly affected our entire building. For the first half of first quarter, we had one science teacher. This is a disservice to our students, and it's resulted in poor behavior due to inconsistency in teaching. Our students act out because they feel unwanted, and I've heard them say, nobody wants to teach us. Well, the district administration has stepped in to help, and we greatly appreciate that. The fact remains that there are just not that many teachers who want to fill our positions. I tell you this because in changing to a handbook instead of a teacher contract, our district becomes even less attractive to those who are looking to find a job teaching. For Davenport to be a district where teachers are going to want to work, it needs the buy-in of all teaching staff. A contract allows buy-in and confidence by teachers that Davenport is a good place to work. A handbook leaves too many things to chance, and good teachers will go work elsewhere. It's already happened, and the consequences are being seen now by the teachers who are still here and committed to all of our students. Without a contract to ensure that we have protection and rights, more veteran teachers will go to districts who offer what a handbook cannot. Other districts have already been poaching our teachers. One nearby district is advertising that they're going to hire teachers from us for open positions very early. Other districts will follow suit. In order for Davenport to retain and attract the best and brightest teachers, we need to ensure that those teachers can feel confident that they will be heard and valued. Teachers are more mobile and less loyal to a particular employer if that employment and the rights and responsibilities that go with it is not guaranteed under a contract. A handbook can be changed at any time. In fact, last year, there were revisions to the work rules currently in place. And some of these changes affected directly teachers in my building. They were put out without any explanation, and teachers were immediately upset and worried that it would affect their positions. A handbook would be a huge extension of these work rules. I've seen teachers in tears over such sudden changes. Davenport students deserve the best teachers that you can find. A contract helps to attract and secure confident, informed, talented teachers, the ones our students need, the ones all Davenport students should have access to. As a school board, please show the teachers in Davenport that you know that they are professionals and treat them as such. Professionals who merit a contract to show them that they are valued, worthy, and appreciated. I urge you to vote to negotiate a contract for all teaching staff. Thank you.
Ashlee Sullivan.
My name is Ashlee Sullivan. I live at 2690 Hunter Road in Bettendorf. I've been a special education teacher in Davenport for 11 years, with 8 of those being at the elementary level. It's a very challenging job, but I love my students and I love my job, which is why I felt the need to advocate for myself and other teachers tonight. I ask our school board members to respect our contract and oppose any discussion of changing to a handbook. Our district is already struggling to fill teaching positions, and that problem will be magnified tenfold without a strong master contract. If you truly want to attract and retain the best teachers, then they have to know that their voices matter. We have heard many presenters over the years speak to the importance of ownership and buy-in. Any movement away from the contract tells teachers that their input doesn't matter, and the uncertainty will drive people away. In October, teachers, nurses, coaches, and SAMs voted overwhelmingly to continue to have the DEA represent them, and that data alone should be enough to stop this discussion before it starts. Unilateral decision-making by those who do not spend every day in the classroom will only result in low morale, frustration, and more unfilled positions. We want to be involved, we want to be respected, we want to keep our contract. Thank you.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Meg Napper. I live at 1410 West 61st in Davenport. And before you stands a very veteran teacher. I have spent 31 years serving the children in this district. A contract states the expectations for both parties. It also has to foresee how possible problems and negative situations will be resolved. It is a record of commitments for both parties. Contracts are about relationships, beneficial to both sides. Negotiation fosters a high level of collaboration. Contracts are an extension of the values of this district, as well as a means of showing respect to both parties. There are so many factors which help me or hinder me in the education of the children in this district. Collective bargaining provides me with a voice and a means, an avenue to let my concerns be heard. Please support entering into negotiations for a new contract with the employees of this district. I strongly believe when educators have a voice at the table, conditions in classrooms are better for our kids. And they're my kids, and they're your kids, and they're your kids. They're our kids. And thank you. Yes. Right now, it's tough. If you haven't been in our buildings, you need to be in our buildings. It's tough. And we're working so hard. Please, please, please. It is a sign of courtesy, professionalism, and good faith that we need right now in this district.
Good evening. My name is John Keith. I'm a teacher at Davenport North, special education. And I apologize for doing this at the hip, but I didn't decide to make a speech in front of you about 5 minutes before I showed up here. I'm also concerned about the contract and collective bargaining. And what I view as my fear is we will lose teachers to other districts, especially across the river, where there is strong unions, strong contracts with their school boards, and, will I say, higher salaries. Case in point, here in Davenport last year, at someone who with a 10-year veteran with a master's degree would make $56,000. If they went over to Rocky with the same master's, same years vested, $66,000. And if we lose our contract and go to a handbook, teachers are going to fall back on what's best for their families and go to some place where they're valued more. They actually get a contract and then get paid more. I love Davenport. We all stay here in Davenport because we love this area, we love these children, and we love our town, and we love our district. So please consider using a contract other than a handbook. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Maggie Reever, and I am a graduate of West High School.
Address.
My address is 4014 West Rusholme in Davenport. I'm a graduate of West High School, and I now teach at West High School along with my husband, and we have 2 children who attend Jackson Elementary School. After I graduated from St. Ambrose, I moved out to California where I taught for 4 years because I wanted to get out of Iowa. But I realized that I wanted to come back to Davenport because I had a great experience here as a student. And I knew that teaching here must be pretty good because all of my teachers had been here for a pretty long time, and many of them were starting to retire or are now my colleagues here in this room. I decided to come back with my now husband so that we could raise our family here. Teachers stay in a school or a district because they have confidence in where they teach. They have stability. They have consistency. They want to stay here and raise their own families here. What provides that is good administration, good school boards, good colleagues, and really a good contract. If we want to keep experienced, qualified teachers here in Davenport, we need to continue to provide them with that stability that they need. Handbooks do not do that. By their very nature, they can change. They erode the stability that teachers need. I know teachers who have told me that if we move to a handbook, they will leave to a district that thought enough of them to continue to provide the stability that they need to ensure that they can have good careers, that they can go somewhere that's going to continue to have good teachers for their own children. So please make the right decision and continue to bargain a contract with our teachers so that our good teachers are going to stay here, and that I know that my children will continue to have good teachers like all of these people in this room, and that I can have confidence that I made the right choice to come back to Davenport to teach for the remainder of my career, as well as my husband, and so we can retire proudly from Davenport schools like my own teachers have and will. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ralph Johansen. My address is 13120 100th Avenue, Davenport, Iowa. The primary topic that I wanted to discuss tonight is expulsions. However, after listening to all of the previous presentations, I do have to say a few words. My opening comments, even with respect to expulsions, I was going to say that according to the National School Boards Association, public education exists to serve the following purposes, among others: prepare students for college and the workforce, including preparing them for jobs that may not even exist yet due to rapidly changing technology, help children fulfill their diverse potentials, enable students to become well-rounded individuals, focusing on the whole child and not just mastery of academic content. Prepare students to live a productive life and become good citizens while obeying the social and legal rules of society. At the last meeting, I talked about a number of things. One of the things was the importance of teachers and the importance of teaching, which I believe is the responsibility of the whole school district. I think that teaching is what all of us are about teaching. And I hope that I've always tried to foster that good relationship with the teachers representatives. When I think of teachers and the teachers that I know, I do think of teaching more as a calling than I do as a job. So whatever your decisions are, I hope that it is with that respect and care for teachers and for all the work that they do. Now that I've spent a good portion of my time talking about that and I don't have much left, I will say that the expulsions are another issue that I'm passionately concerned with, and you all know that. I do support consequences, but I don't support the idea of removing students from education through expulsion. I think there are other alternatives that we can look at. This is clearly a board issue. It is not an issue that anybody else has the responsibility for or the purview of. I believe it's urgent because every student that may be expelled in the future may be subject to being removed from the opportunity of receiving an education. All I'm asking for is that the board consider whether or not it's worth messing with. If not, I intend to pursue this anyway. I've already been doing some work. But if it is something that the board is going to pursue, then I certainly wouldn't. Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me a chance to speak again. The reason I'm here is, as president of the DEA, I'm asking the members of the board and the individuals in the audience, if you would please join us on Wednesday, December 11th, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Collar Auditorium in Davenport Central High for a movie and a panel discussion of the award-winning documentary film Resilience. The movie outlines the concept and conditions known as ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and how educators, medical professions, mental health and social workers, and others address ACEs in our population. The movie and the discussion are free and open to the public. Please park on the north side of the Central High School and enter the building through the north doors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all of you for sharing your thoughts on this rather pressing issue that we're moving into. Chair will entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes,
I move the board accept the consent agenda as written.
is there a second?
Second.
It's moved in second. Is there any discussion? Director Gosa.
Mr. Maloney, if you could head up here, I just have a quick question.
Okay.
My question is about 6.03, 6.04 with the architects. My question is, have we ever looked into doing, when you have a general contractor, usually they have architects in-house as a way to kind of save cost on projects, versus we get an architect, we pay for them, and then we turn around and get a GC or whatever, and then we have to pay when they already have them in-house. I'm just, if we ever looked into doing that, is that something I need to make a request on, or?
Well, design build services, we're not authorized in Iowa as a public entity to utilize design build services where the contractor is the designer. So our choices are general contractor design bid build, such as you see here, or general contractor as construction agent.
Okay, so that's a law, what you're
Yes.
saying? So when you get time sometime, can you email me that, please?
Certainly.
Because I see other facilities do it, so is it just because we're a school district? Is that why?
Yes, public agencies may not do design build, single firm.
Okay, yeah, if you could send me that stuff. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? We'll move to the vote. Director Mayfield?
Yes.
You got to call on the person that voted.
Oh, the motion. Yes, thank you very much. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Gosa. Director Klein Jerome.
I didn't hear what you said.
Director
you a
Mayfield
yes?
said yes.
Okay. I didn't hear you at all. You need talking to.
Director Klein Jerome.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Posture.
Yes.
And my vote is yes, the motion carries. We have a motion on the approval of bills.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
following resolution is recommended by the administration for adoption of the bills from the bill listing periods of November 21st, 2019 through December 4th, 2019. Resolve all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as corrected by the secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and followed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolve the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods of November 21st, 2019 through December 4th, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
Director Gosa seconds. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Poston.
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion to approve plans and specifications for the Davenport Community School District Surveillance Upgrade Project? Well, if you want to give one, well, Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Sometimes you just have to nudge your way into the conversation a little bit here. Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the opportunity. A couple of points I'd like to emphasize, and then I would certainly like to offer a little bit of commentary in addition to some of the commentary we heard this evening. Emphasizing once again tomorrow night our Career Night Expo. I've had an opportunity to meet Mark Perna, who is our featured speaker heading into tomorrow night's expo. Again, it's at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds, and he has a very valuable insight into the minds and motivational aspects of our youth. And I would encourage anyone in our community to attend this evening. I found his work to be inspirational, not only as an educator, but as a parent. And I would certainly encourage anyone in our community to take advantage of this opportunity, as well as all the wonderful information that will be disseminated at our career night tomorrow evening. I would also like to point out that a little bit later on in our agenda, the board and the public will see for the first time that we've added a financial report from the district perspective. The board may recall that we've engaged the services of a firm to help us with our financial accounting, especially on the month-to-month reporting basis for the school board. We now have Forecast 5 analytics, which allows us to give a much more accurate picture of our finances to date through any particular month. And we plan on giving a summary of our 2019-2020 school year fiscal situation to the SBRC next week, Tuesday. I'll talk a little bit more about the SBRC during that update later on, but I would like to alert the public to let them know that our pledge is to make sure that we have full financial transparency, not only to our Board of Education, but to our public on a month-to-month basis, and that's going to be something that you'll see on our agendas moving forward at every single board meeting. I would also like to point out that at our last meeting, I took note of the fact that our new communications coverage has spent quite a bit of time trying to enhance our social media profile on Facebook, and we've been obviously pushing out as much positive information as we possibly can to our community. We're finding more and more coverage and more interest in our schools from a positive perspective. And tonight I can announce that we now have an Instagram presence also. So we are revolving with the rest of the world, maybe just a little bit behind, but we're catching up very quickly. And I'm very excited to continue to share the good news and all the wonderful things that are happening in our classrooms with our teachers, with our students across the district, and sharing that with the world. And my congratulations to the staff that is certainly doing all of these things with our students. And again, congratulations and my thanks to our TAG services team that has really helped us get the positive messaging out that this community deserves, because there are wonderful things happening in this community. Last but certainly not least, I wasn't planning on offering this commentary, but I'm very pleased to see such a large contingent of friendly faces in the room and my staff, and I mean that when I say my staff. I had the experience to live through statutory changes to collective bargaining in my previous experience in Wisconsin back in 2011, and their version of Chapter 20 changes, which were far more harsh than even what has happened in Wisconsin. There weren't even permissible items that could be bargained, and I watched firsthand some districts and some superintendents who decided they would take advantage of that unilateral opportunity. And you know what I'm talking about when I say that. As a superintendent in my districts, I never allowed that to happen. I always made sure that I did everything that I could as the superintendent, working with the school board, working with the staff, to nurture those positive ongoing relationships with the staff. You know what, we're all on the same team and we all have to work together. So my pledge to all of you in the room, and that includes the Board of Education, is that we need to continue to work together, continue to nurture the trust that has been built up over the years, and have positive outcomes for students, because again, we're all on the same team and you have my pledge to be on that team with you. So, Mr. President, that concludes my remarks for the evening.
May I have a motion for the approval of plans and specifications for the DCSD surveillance upgrade project?
You got to conduct a public hearing. You got to read all this.
Read what? I have to get the motion. Then we do the open.
You got to do. It's
No, I read this thing here. I read this here. Yeah, but I have to have a motion first.
No, you do that first, and then we do it.
Huh?
Just read it. You do that first.
Okay. Should have practiced. We'll now hold a public hearing on the approval of plans and specifications for the Davenport Community School District Surveillance Upgrade Project as published in the Quad City Times, November 29th, 2019. May I have a motion? Don't I have to have a motion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. May I have a motion on the approval of plans and specifications for the DCSD Surveillance Upgrade Project? May I have a motion? Anybody going once?
So move.
Director Poston, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Gosa, seconded. Anyone, we now hold a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Is there any further discussion of the board on the motion? There being none, we will move to a vote. Director Poston?
Yes.
Who seconded? Director Gosa?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
And my vote is yes, the motion carries.
That's Director Hayes. Director Hayes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
May I have a motion on the approval of the revised board meeting calendar?
Mr. President.
Director Hayes?
I recommend the board approve the revised board meeting calendar as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Director Klein Jerome is seconded. Discussion. Director Hayes?
Although it will be discussed later, just clarifying that it is for 2 meetings a month versus the 3, the cow on the 2nd and the regular meeting on the 4th Tuesday.
Monday.
Or Monday, I'm sorry,
That is
unless
correct.
it's a holiday.
That is correct. Any further discussion? We'll move to a vote. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
Director Grossa?
Yes.
Director Postian?
Yes.
And my vote is yes, the motion carries. Discussion items with a Phase 2 update. Superintendent?
Mr. President, our most recent regular board meeting, I reported that we are in compliance with all the citations as well as all the timelines associated with our Phase 2 citations. That continues to be the case today. We have a number of citations, as I've mentioned in the past, that we're continuing to work on. Again, what I would like to emphasize is we're not ticking these off one at a time. We're working on citations that are designed to change the culture and climate and the actual policies and practices of the school district to be more efficient and effective for our students as well as our staff. So essentially what we're doing is these are a work in progress, and it's a process for every single one of these citations. So even the citations that we've already met from a Department of Education perspective, we continue to circle back and make sure that we're doing those properly, whether those be HR practices or practices with our special ed students. So these aren't one and done deals, but I'm pleased to report that we continue to meet the expectations of the Department of Education. We intend to continue to do so. Our next citations are due for a revisit with the Department of Education in January, and we're looking forward to that meeting, and we expect to be again in full compliance with all of the citations. There's a document that we will download for you that shows the approval from the Department of Education of all of our citations to date. That continues to be all in positive territory, so we're pleased to report that from a Phase 2 update. I would also like to add that colleagues from the Department of Education will be joining us in mid-January to discuss safety and security of students and staff, and we will have a broad collaborative discussion. I mentioned to the Board of Education that I am calling for a round of summits to take place internally as well as externally with regard to safety and security of our students and our staff. I've held a number of internal conversations with some staff members. We're including the Department of Education in those conversations to see if they can offer any help and guidance on the issue of safety and security, which is one of the foremost items on my mind as the superintendent. So I'm pleased to say that they will be here in January and have a summit conversation with us, at which point we will, I've been meeting with community members with the idea of shortly after the holiday break having a community summit with regard to safety and security within the Davenport community schools to include community leaders to discuss some of the issues, the challenges, but also the opportunities that we have as a school system to move forward in the domain of safety and security. And that all fits as one of our Phase 2 citations. So conversations are taking place, action steps are in place, and I'm pleased to report positive progress on Phase 2.
Any discussion? Director Gosa.
Just a couple things, or actually one really. And I think I hit on this the last meeting we had when Dr. Tom Lane was talking about strategic plans and things like that. I would like to see a little bit more of that and get presented to the board so we kind of, I think when you have something like that, I use them every day in work. Every day, and I think it's good to have something you can go back to and look at, and this is how we're going to do it. I mean, you could probably do the same thing with your summits. You got, this is our end goal, this is how we're going to get here. I think it's good, and they're always ever changing, but I think if you have a baseline and then the board can see that too, so we're kind of aware not only your intent, but how you plan to do it.
That's a good point, and what I'll say, Director Gosa, is strategic planning is a process, it's not an event. So we will engage a more broad strategic planning, visioning process for this district, asking our community to include our staff. What exactly is our vision for our school district in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What does that look like so that we're not reacting to all the little pieces that seem to be coming our way on a whole host of topics? I've been here 4 months now, and I'm finishing up what will be a State of the District address to the Board of Education and to the community in January ahead of these summits, with the idea of teeing up the conversation for a broad-based strategic planning initiative and conversation with our community. That'll keep us focused.
Perfect, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll move to the finance report.
So, Mr. President, as I described a few moments ago, we have a session with the SBRC next week, Tuesday. There are two things that the SBRC is really looking forward to in terms of a conversation with the Davenport Community School District. The first is, how are we doing in our current fiscal year? As everyone in this room knows, the district had to make some pretty significant decisions with regard to staffing, with regard to programming, all in an effort to try and get our budget in line for the SBRC to meet their expectations. I will emphasize again, if the SBRC has someone listening, our intent is to completely meet all of those expectations of the SBRC. However, we feel it's very important that as we look at our 2019-2020 budget, that we continually have a focus and an understanding of where we are during that process, so that we don't wait till the end of the year and wish we had more time to make changes where now perhaps we could make a shift. So what we've done with the software that I described a little bit earlier is it allows us to get a glimpse of where we expect to be from a budgeting perspective. Knowing the cuts that we've made as a district last year to staffing, are we actually seeing that manifested itself in reduced expenditures in this fiscal year? And I'm pleased to report that's the case. I would ask our CFO, Claudia Wood, to give you a little bit more detail as to what that looks like through November of 2019. Claudia, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I do want to clarify the data that I have is not from the new software yet. We haven't gotten that far. It's data that I just pulled, so we'll get a little more formalized reporting to you once we're up and running on that new software. But in preparation for providing the SBRC with as up-to-date of information as possible when we appear next Tuesday in Des Moines, I did pull together some information through November of last year, comparing it to where we are through November of this fiscal year. Overall, our expenditures are down $2 million compared to last year at this time. So I think that is a good way to show the SBRC that we are on track to meet their expectations and meet what we had laid out in our 2-year plan to them in reducing our expenditures. Our salaries are down a little over $3 million at this point. Our benefits are up from last year because we had taken an insurance holiday at this point last year, and we have not done that yet this year. We are projecting to do that later this year, but at this point in the year, we haven't done that yet. But overall, all expenditures in our general fund are down a little over $2 million at this point compared to last year at the same time. We also need to probably give them an update on some staffing numbers. They are expecting to see that we have made staff reductions. At this point, comparing our total FTE, full-time equivalents, to last year, we have 219.74 fewer FTE this year than we did last year at this time. Some of those may get filled as we try to fill vacancies throughout the year. We are still looking to fill some teaching positions and some paraeducator positions. But again, just doing a year-to-year comparison where we are this year right now to the same point last year, we have 219 fewer FTE. So again, I think what we are needing to talk to the SBRC about next week is to show them that we are on track to being reduced in our expenditures for this year, and then where they expect us to go next year.
And to sort of summarize it and wrap that up, where they expect us to go next year is to close that $13 million gap that we have in our budget. That's the expectation that we have for ourselves, and that's the expectation that was articulated during our last meeting. I suspect we'll get further clarification from that when we meet with the SBRC next week, Tuesday. As per the SBRC, both the board president and vice president are required to appear, and I'm sure we'll get some very pointed questions from the team, but at least we feel as though we can answer that. The district has, in good faith, worked very diligently to meet those financial expectations that the SBRC has put in front of us. There's still a great deal of work to do, don't get me wrong, but for the first time period, the SBR is going to see significant cuts to our expenditures as our budget moves along during the year. I'd be happy to take any questions from the board members if they have them at this time on any financial matter. Yes, ma'am.
Claudia, would it be fair to say then now our gap is 11 million instead of 13 million because of that 2 million? Or no?
It's a little hard to answer mid-year, but we are heading in the right direction. You could say that, but there's still a lot left of this year. But yeah, we're making the cuts that are needed.
Okay, and the 219.74 fewer FTEs, would the majority of those be teachers and paras?
Yes, in the teachers, we're at 136 fewer. Para-educators, just under 51 fewer. And then there's a few in other categories. But yeah, those are the two largest groups.
Thank you.
Are we able to get, so Director Kleindrome was just asking about like the FTEs. Are we able to get what positions were reduced and what we've hired for since reductions? Because obviously we're eliminating positions.
So we have a spreadsheet that we will share with you this evening that shows our net position by job category.
Okay.
So this is exactly what it looks like, and we'll be happy to put it on board docs for public purview. And it'll give you a sense of that's net from last year to this year at this moment in time. So that's a snapshot of where we are right now.
Okay, but is there a way to get that broke down more?
In
like
you and I could talk offline.
Okay.
We can figure that out, certainly. Mr. President, that concludes our financial report for the evening.
Next item move to is a discussion on policies. Director Gosa will lead that discussion.
I wasn't really prepared for it. The policies are listed right here. If you click on the policies for discussion, it has, I think a few of them have recommendations. The attendance centers, which was a recommendation, the changes were by Mr. Rob Scott over there, so if anybody had any questions, I'm sure he would be able to answer those.
Dan, would you like me to help?
What's that?
Would you like me to help and just?
Yeah, that's fine.
So in terms of the attendance center piece, the piece we wanted to emphasize, it's very important for us from a planning perspective and a staffing perspective that any requests for attendance area transfers be done by May 1st. So what you're really seeing in this very first policy is an emphasis on multiple occasions that please tell us by May 1st we need to have this information. Unfortunately, there's been some slippage in those requests where we're starting to get some in July and August when our staffing levels have already been determined by the buildings, and it makes it difficult to move, especially when we get dozens of requests for transfers at the last minute, and it makes it difficult to tell a teacher or a principal that they're going to have a staffing change as a result of this. So this policy is strictly designed to emphasize to the community, and we will do so in our counselor meetings with our students as well as our information sessions with parents and students. Please be mindful that May 1st is the deadline for those requests. And that's what this policy is simply to emphasize that.
And then I believe the school bus policies, those are new policies because that's required by the state now. Is that correct?
New language recommended.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think Mr. Maloney had told us we'll be having to get new buses within the next few years. And what was the year that they had to have the 3-point restraints in?
Any new buses bought have the restraints.
Yeah, so that's why we have this policy in there. So any new buses purchased have those. That sum that up.
Any bus purchased after October 2nd, 2019 must be equipped with 3-point seatbelt restraints for each student. That's estimated to add $8,000 to $10,000 cost per bus. Buses are currently about $90,000 to $100,000 each. Most of our fleet is about 8 to 10 years old, and we'll start to replace those in the next 2 or 3 years.
So we needed this policy in place to kind of help implement that. But most of them made now already have all that stuff, right?
Yes, they will have, because more and more states are requiring that the buses come with the belts, so they're being manufactured that way now. For all districts in Iowa, any purchased after last October will have belts for every student.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on that? I must just really knock this out of the park, because when Allison does it, there's always questions.
This is just the first reading.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so for the new board members, what we do the discussion on this, and then it'll come up again to be voted on, but we'll have another discussion on it too. So if you think of questions in that amount of time as well. And then the next one is the public input at board meetings. I'm trying to remember the discussion on this one because I wasn't, because we kind of jumped
Just
around.
revised it to be in compliance with the Iowa Association of School
Okay.
Boards recommends.
So this policy was revised to the way that the IASB's policy reads on this. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I do have a question here. It's 501.11 and talked about transfers. Only one request a year will be honored. Could someone explain that to me as to why just one? And are we talking about a single person can only move once or only one in general?
So the language that's, we didn't change any of the languages that was in the policy. We didn't change any of the language in the policy. All we did was add the reaffirming the May 1st date for movement. But our practice has been that if you have a transfer to, I'll use a high school. So if you transfer from Central to North High School, that a year from that date, you could then apply for a transfer to go to West High School. But you couldn't transfer mid-year or the next quarter.
Or more than once, okay.
You couldn't transfer more than once. It's only one transfer a year. And that's our current practice we've been using throughout the district.
Okay.
Did you have any other questions, Rex?
No, that was, he answered.
Did anyone have any questions on policy 903.15, the public input at board meetings?
Go to the next one.
And then the next one is a new policy, 903.19. It's the complaint procedure, and that title is a working title. And that was something that was recommended by the IASB too, I do believe, correct? The new policy was recommended by the IASB, how their policy reads.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Did you?
I have a question. Is this the procedure we currently use? We just put it into a policy?
Yeah,
Because I
basically.
think I remember this is kind of how it
Yeah.
was
Yes.
used before.
It's chain of command.
Right.
Any other questions on that? And the next policy is 306.01, business operations. Do you have anything on this one?
Actually, that's the category.
These are
The
statutory
title
guidelines.
is, the Board of Directors Records is changed, so the title would be Care, Maintenance, and Disposal of School Records.
It just talks about how long we have to.
And in this particular policy, we address the number of years that we have to keep certain records on file. And that is updated by statute. Statute determines how long we have to keep these records in our possession. And it's updated those years in this new policy.
And that covers both policies, right? That's what I thought. You have a question? Did anybody have any questions on those?
So if any board member does have a question after this evening, prior to the final reading, the second reading of board policies, if any questions come up, they can either be directed to the policy committee or to my office, and we can work on those questions. Again, this is first reading. It's your first opportunity to take a look at these particular items, knowing that you need a little bit of time to reflect. So we'll be talking about each one of these again, but the next time you see these, they'll actually be up for a vote.
Okay.
Could I ask one other thing? Category A student transferring to Category A to a Category B. What's a Category A and a Category B in the elementary?
Yeah, in the elementary. Don Anderson Rasher sets those, and they're based on our free and reduced rate in the district. So those are determined, and those fluctuate by the year. And so it just determines on, you can transfer, you can't transfer to a like school, you can transfer to a non-free and reduced school or wherever the rate is at. So the rate determines if it's an A school, if it's a free and reduced higher rate. I think the cutoff last year was like at 66%, and then you can transfer from A to B, but you can't transfer from B to B. And really,
And the A's are the higher free and reduced lunch, the B's are the higher.
actually opposite way.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any board requests? I have two. From Director Hayes, an agenda item. I'd like to do a discussion of items be added to the agenda for discussion on contracts versus handbooks. Why are you requesting? Because our class sizes are large, our teachers are few, and they continue with the thought the handbook would be a disgrace to the district. When would you like this done? As soon as possible. Disservice. Oh, okay. Director Beck, I'd like to look into increasing the number. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'd like to look into increasing the number of short recess breaks in the elementary. The rationale research shows that the ability to do physical activity regularly improves learning, even for 5 minutes every hour. As feasible. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. From Director Klein Jerome, an information request. All board members will be informed about issues in the district before they are in the media. The board policy states that keep the board informed of issues and needs and the operation of the school system. Board members should not be finding out about district issues from the media as soon as possible. Is there a second?
Second.
That was fast. It's a unanimous second. I never heard that. From Director Klein, Jerome, agenda item, discuss the policy regarding master contracts with employee bargaining groups in the next regular board meeting in January. Our employee groups need to be treated with respect. Having a master contract that outlines mandatory and permissive topics of bargaining helps in the recruitment and retention of employees. The suggestion is this might be on the next January regular board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Administrative reports.
None this evening.
Well, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, wait.
I think we'd be remiss. We didn't get it on the agenda, but tonight is Officer Nyrick's last night with the school district to be at a school board meeting. We certainly appreciate him around here, and I know everybody else does too.
start the gym quick, so January 3rd will be my last day, and I'll hand the keys over to you then.
Thank you.
The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The meeting's adjourned.